Hey guys, Taro here, and today I'm going to be covering my recommended settings for Company of Heroes 2. First I'm going to do gameplay settings, then graphics settings, and then finally a few miscellaneous tweaks that can be really helpful. So first on the list, mouse scroll. I've turned this up like quite a lot. So what mouse scroll changes is that when you go to the edge of the screen and scroll, how fast it goes. As you can see there, like a small touch is resulting in quite a large shift for me. So the reason why I turn this up is because I do use mouse scroll to move around the map in gameplay, and when I want to move the map around like that, I want it to be like really fast. I don't want to be like having to spend a long time with my mouse on the side of the screen instead of in the middle of the screen trying to control units. So that's why I did it. It's a little bit like hectic and jerky, as you can see there, but it does, you do get used to it, and it does result in better and faster unit control. Key scroll, I did turn this down a little bit, but that's just for observing games. When I'm shoutcasting, I do use key scroll sometimes, but otherwise I don't use it when playing the game. So you might want to tweak that yourself if you do use key scroll, but I don't recommend it. The keys are like quite far away. But some people also do use scripts to rebind the movement keys to different commands, so you might want to look into that if you want to use key scroll. Use this on-screen warnings. I think this is default off and I leave it off. Sticky selection, this is defaulted to on, but turn it off, and I do recommend turning it off. So when you have it on, this is what happens. Say you have a squad selected, and then you go to select a new squad, and then you misclick, which can happen. Like I'm clicking like right where the squad is, but I can quite easily misclick and not select the squad. I still have the old squad selected, and that's a problem because personally when I play the game, when I go to select a squad, I'll go to select them and then give them an order straight away. I don't like wait for a second to double check that I have the new squad selected before giving the order. So that quite often results in errors where you give the order that you intended to give to the new squad to the old squad, and it's just a disaster, especially when it comes to things that are set up like machine guns. So I definitely recommend turning sticky selection off, and that way you have your squad selected, then you go to select new squad, you make a misclick, you have nothing selected. So if you go to do a movement command, nothing happens, everything's going fine, and then you can quite quickly just select the squad again. So yeah, sticky selection off, highly recommend turning that off. Next one down the list, we have classic hotkeys. I've also turned this off, it's defaulted to on. So what the hotkeys look like with classic hotkeys off is, as you can see here, Q, W, R. And that lines up with the top row of your keyboard just below the number keys. And then A, and then this will be S, and this will be D, this will be F. So as you can see here, like all the hotkeys on the grid of the UI here line up to the grid of your keyboard. So that means all the hotkeys are in a nice like tight position. You don't have to move your hand around. Whereas if you turn to classic hotkeys on, now it's more like a classic hotkey style. A for attack, S for stop, T for retreat, B for build. So that kind of makes a bit of intuitive sense, and maybe if you came from like another strategy game, you might think, oh yeah, I want to use these classic hotkeys. And that's what I thought too. I actually used classic hotkeys for the first 600 hours I played this game, but I ended up making way too many input errors using classic hotkeys, because as you can see here now, tripwire flares are on N. Like that's like way on the other side of the keyboard. For me, trying to accurately press N was just like a nightmare. So it resulted in just way too many input errors for me. So yeah, I definitely recommend turning classic hotkeys off, even if you came from a different strategy game where you do use A for attack and S for stop. It's just not worth it. Moving on, classic XP kickers, that's the default setting, so just leave that as it is. Show player color, this is what I've switched. It's default to off, switch it to on. What this does in team games, if you're fighting against a team, instead of the entire enemy team being red, they'll now be different colors. So it's really helpful for determining if you're getting 2v1'd or something, if they're both playing the same army, your opponents. So you can figure out like who's where on the map easier, and helpful in those team game situations. Everything else is the default. Okay, now we're moving on to the graphics settings. Full screen brightness, that's going to come down to personal preference and your display brightness, so I leave that up to you. Heads up display scale, I recommend leaving this at the maximum. That way you'll be able to see the mini-map as large as possible, which is really helpful, and other important things like the units that feature in the top right of your screen, those will be full size, and your resources as well down the bottom. You'll be easier to see the numbers down there, so you can keep track of your resources more easily. Custom aesthetics, this is defaulted to on. I recommend you switch this off. So what this does is, in custom games there are some custom skins that users can create, and then you can use them in custom games. And what happens though if you try to play a custom game with somebody who has lots of these skins is that you have to download all of those skins, not just the ones that they're using in the game like that time, all of them, before you can play the game, which is just crazy. They end up clogging up your inventory like crazy. They don't work in auto match at all. And yeah, so they're basically just rubbish in my opinion. Some people like them, but yeah, I recommend switching this off so that your inventory doesn't get cluttered up and you don't have to wait to download them before you play custom games as well. Historical skins. So this is another skin setting. This is defaulted to off, I believe. What this one does is that there are some skins that you can buy from the shop that are not historically accurate. They're like, some tanks have like made out of leather and wood, and some tanks have like devil skins, kind of, you know. So basically these are official skins that do work in auto match, but if you like to role play, you can turn them off, so you can stay in that World War II immersion setting. Unit occlusion, this is defaulted to on. So what unit occlusion does is that, say if there's a unit behind a building that maybe you wouldn't be able to see from the default camera angle, you'll kind of have like x-ray vision through the building. You'll be able to see like an outline of the unit behind the building. So yeah, if you switch this off, there's a good chance you might miss something behind a building, might miss a mine or something as well. So definitely want to leave unit occlusion on. So when it comes to setting the rest of your graphics settings, generally I recommend just using the auto detect settings and then making a few tweaks from there. So in this case, it turned VSync on. You 100% need to turn VSync off. It just runs terribly in this game. Turn VSync off. It's just awful. I cannot stress this enough. And then you may also want to turn down snow detail. There's sometimes memory leaks in this game, and it seems to be worse on snow maps. So turning down snow detail is kind of like a safe option to try and minimize that. And then from there, you should be all right. You may want to turn anti-aliasing off if you want to boost your performance a little bit, but I like to leave it on. So yeah, that's what I recommend. You also have to be careful. Sometimes Nvidia, and it may be the same for AMD as well, download these game-ready drivers, and these can reset these settings. So if you find a performance setting that you like and it runs well and it looks good, just yeah, you might want to disable those kind of Nvidia auto driver settings. And finally, for the sound settings, I've got music all the way to 0. And the reason why I do this, in this game there are quite a lot of audio cues, and when the music's up I just can't hear them clearly enough. So there'll be like units shouting grenade warnings, or maybe they say I'm dying here, so you need to retreat them. And when the music's up, I can't hear them clearly enough, and I don't play as well. Music in this game though I think is generally pretty good, and it does kind of give you that like immersion feeling. So maybe if you're a beginner in this game and you're not trying to take it super seriously yet, maybe you want to just leave the music on and really get that immersive feeling. And then later on, when you try to take this more seriously, get into the multiplayer, you'll want to switch the music off. And finally, with sound quality, there used to be a bug where if you turn the sound quality down, it was better, but that's no longer the case, so just leave sound quality at high. Now there are a couple settings you'll want to tweak through Steam as well. So go to your library, go to COH2, hit properties, and then go to set launch options. So as you can see here, I've got quite a few launch options. So first one on the list is no movies. So what this does is when you start the game, the movies that happen as you start the game will be skipped, so it means you can get into the game more quickly, which is great, because as I mentioned earlier, there are a few stability issues. Sometimes with memory leaks, the game can crash if you leave it open for too long, so I do recommend restarting the game every, say, hour and a half or so. That way you should have a very low chance of crashing, and by having no movies enabled, you'll be able to restart the game more quickly, which is great. Then moving on to window. This allows you to play the game in window mode, and then full window means it'll fit your screen correctly, which is good. And then finally lockmouse. This means that when playing in window mode, as you go to the edge of the screen, you won't go off the screen into your next monitor, which can be a real disaster. So if you're using window mode, you definitely need lockmouse on. And then finally, allow incompatible replays. This lets you watch replays from older versions of the game. Generally, it doesn't work very well, honestly, so you probably don't need this setting on, but if you're trying to watch an old replay, maybe this gives you a chance of watching it. And finally, in this game, there is an extra map mode, kind of like a jumbo-sized mini-map called the Tactical Map, and that's on numpad 0. That's what this does. It opens up this big mini-map, very helpful for seeing territory. It's just very good. I recommend using it a lot, but being on numpad 0 is very inconvenient. So, what I've done personally, I've got a SteelSeries mouse, and I've bound one of my extra mouse buttons, the one on the side of my mouse, to numpad 0. So then I can open it and close it very frequently. It's very handy, and I have a full guide on the tactical map on my YouTube channel.